What if I told you that for over a decade, you've been playing for the wrong side? What if I told you that the heroes we've been rooting for since 2007, the noble assassins we've guided through the Crusades, the Renaissance, and the Golden Age of piracy, were actually the ones responsible for some of the most horrific catastrophes in human history? And what if I told you that the most forgotten game in the entire Assassin's Creed franchise was actually the only one brave enough to tell us the truth? It is January 2026. Take a moment to let that sink in. We are closer to the year 2030 than we are to the day this game first hit the shelves. Over the last decade, we've seen the gaming industry transform in ways we couldn't have imagined back in the early 2010s. We've seen the rise of massive AI-driven open worlds. We've seen the Assassin's Creed franchise reinvent itself as a sprawling RPG trilogy. We've seen the return to roots with Mirage. And now, we're navigating the complex, interconnected ecosystem of the Infinity platform. But despite all the shiny new tech, despite the 8K textures and the hyper-realistic NPC behavior trees, there is one game that keeps coming up in the comments of every Best of AC list. One game that refused to stay in the past. Welcome to the channel. Look, I'm going to be completely transparent with you. As of this very second, we have exactly 5 subscribers. 5. To those 5 legends, you are the originals. You're here at the ground floor of what I'm building. To everyone else watching, I'm treating this script with the same level of obsession, research, and production value as a 1,000,000 subscriber special. Because the game we're talking about today, it was the ultimate underdog. It deserves that level of respect. If you want to be subscriber number 6, if you want to be part of the foundation of a channel that values depth over clicks, hit that subscribe button right now. Today, we are going back to the 7 Years' War. We are diving into the freezing, unforgiving waters of the North Atlantic to look at the black sheep of the Ubisoft family, Assassin's Creed Rogue. Was it just a lazy Black Flag clone? Was it a cheap cash grab for a dying console generation? Or, looking at it through the lens of 2026, can we finally admit that Rogue was the most focused, the most daring, and the most narratively honest game the franchise has ever produced? Grab a drink, settle in. This is the complete story of the man who chose to make his own luck. To understand why Rogue was buried for so long, we have to perform a post-mortem on the year of 2 creeds. 2014 was a year of massive transition for the industry. The PlayStation 4 and Xbox One were still the shiny new toys, and Ubisoft was standing at a crossroads. They had a massive problem. Half their audience was on the brand new hardware, and the other half was still rocking the PS3 and the 360. Most publishers would have delayed a game or released a cross-gen port, not Ubisoft. In a move of pure unadulterated corporate hubris, they decided to release 2 massive AAA games in the same franchise on the exact same day. On the left, you had Assassin's Creed Unity. It was the next-gen darling. It had the massive crowds, the revolutionary parkour, the stunning 1-to-1 scale Paris. It was supposed to be the future of gaming. On the right, tucked away in the shadows, you had Rogue. It used the old engine. It used the Naval assets from Black Flag. It was built for the old consoles. Ubisoft barely gave it a marketing budget. They didn't even send out early review copies to most major outlets. They essentially sent it out to die. But then, launch day happened. And as history loves to remind us, ambition without polish is a recipe for disaster. Unity launched as a technical nightmare. We're talking faceless NPCs, frame rates that looked like a slideshow, and bugs that became the stuff of internet legend. While the entire gaming world was busy flaming Paris, a small group of us were quietly sailing through the North Atlantic, and we realized something shocking. Rogue was stable. It was polished. It took the best gameplay loop in the series, the naval combat of Black Flag, and refined it into a weapon of precision. But more importantly, it did something the series had never dared to do. It made us the bad guy. Or at least, it made us realize that the good guys weren't as holy as we thought. Let's talk about our protagonist. For years, the series gave us heroes who were basically variations of Ezio Auditore. Charming, witty, a bit of a ladies' man. Even Edward Kenway was just a pirate version of that archetype. But Shay is cynical. He's moody. He's the guy who actually reads the fine print in the Assassin's Creed and realizes, wait a minute, this doesn't actually make any sense. When we meet him in 1752, he's a mediocre assassin at best. He's rebellious, he's constantly bickering with his best friend Liam, and he's clearly frustrated by the Brotherhood's obsession with these precursor artifacts. The game spends its first 2 sequences making you feel like a brother. You train with Achilles Davenport, the same mentor we'd later see as a broken old man, man in AC3, but the cracks are already there. The colonial assassins in the 1750s aren't the noble freedom fighters we saw in the Ezio trilogy. They're disorganized, they're arrogant, and they're messing with cosmic forces they don't understand. Shay sees it, he feels it. He's the only one asking, at what cost? In 2026, we talk a lot about moral gray areas in gaming, but back in 2014, Rogue was doing it before it was cool. It wasn't just about assassins good, Templars bad. It was about the dangerous intersection of ideology and power. Shay isn't a villain, he's a whistleblower. He's a man who saw the corruption inside his own house and decided to burn the house down to save the neighborhood. This is the moment Rogue stops being a Black Flag clone and starts being a masterpiece. If you haven't played this mission in a while, let me refresh your memory of the sheer psychological trauma it inflicts on the player. Achilles sends Shay to Lisbon, Portugal to retrieve a piece of Eden. Shay expects a powerful weapon, something to help end the war against the Templars. He finds a hidden temple deep beneath a massive cathedral. He reaches out, he touches the artifact, and the world ends. The artifact wasn't a weapon, it wasn't a tool for peace, it was a seismic anchor. By removing it, Shay triggers a massive earthquake that levels the entire city of Lisbon. In an instant, thousands of innocent people, men, women, children, are crushed to death. The escape sequence is still one of the most intense moments in the entire franchise. You're parkouring through a city that is literally folding in half. Churches are crumbling, the ground is splitting, and the whole time, Shay is screaming, not in fear, but in guilt. When he gets back to the homestead, he's traumatized. He expects a realization from the Brotherhood that they made a mistake. Instead, Achilles tells him he's being emotional. He tells him to get back to work. That is the moment the creed was broken for Shay. Stay your blade from the flesh of the innocent. Well, he just killed a whole city for the Brotherhood. He realizes that if the assassins keep looking for these temples, they will destroy the world. And he decides he's going to be the one to stop them, even if he has to kill every friend he's ever had. This is where we need to talk about the genius of Rogue's gameplay loop. In 2026, we have games with incredible AI, but Rogue did something with its Stalker mechanic that still feels fresh today. For 6 games, we were the predators. We were the ones hiding in the haystacks. We were the ones sitting on the chimneys, waiting for a guard to walk by so we could deliver an air assassination. In Rogue, the assassins use our own tricks against us. Let's break down the Stalkers. As you walk through the streets of New York, the music will suddenly shift. You'll hear these distorted whispers. The edges of the screen turn a hazy gray. Somewhere nearby, an assassin is watching you. They're hidden in a crowd, or waiting in a bush, or perched on a rooftop. If you aren't careful, if you don't use your eagle vision to scan every corner, they will pounce, and they hit hard. They can take out half your health in one strike. It completely changes how you interact with the city. You aren't the king of the rooftops anymore. You have to be cautious. You have to be smart. You are hunting the world's most dangerous predators, and for the first time in the series, you actually feel vulnerable. This isn't just a cool mechanic, it's narrative storytelling through gameplay. Shay is a traitor to the Brotherhood, and the Brotherhood is coming for him. Every whisper you hear in the streets of New York is a reminder of the family you walked away from. It creates a sense of paranoia that perfectly mirrors Shay's mental state. You aren't just playing a game, you're living a life of constant, high-stakes alertness. We have to talk about the ship, the Morrigan. If Black Flag was a sprawling pirate adventure about freedom and exploration, Rogue is a surgical naval strike. The Morrigan is smaller, faster, and significantly deadlier than the Jackdaw. It was designed for the tight, icy channels of the North Atlantic, and it feels aggressive. In 2026, we're used to fast-paced naval combat, but back then, the Puckle gun was a revelation. They replaced the slow, clunky swivel guns with what is essentially an 18th century Gatling gun. You can shred sails, ignite weak points, and clear enemy decks in seconds. It feels powerful. It feels Templar. And then there's the burning oil. Instead of fire barrels, you dump oil behind you and ignite it, creating a literal wall of fire to stop pursuers. It's efficient, it's ruthless. And the environment. The North Atlantic is a character in itself. You have to dodge massive icebergs, or better yet, destroy them to create shockwaves that flip enemy boats. You can't just swim forever like you could in the Caribbean. If you fall into that water, you start freezing. Your health starts ticking down. It's a constant, visceral subtle reminder that the world is trying to kill you. The Morrigan isn't just a ship, it's Shay's new home. A home for a man who has been cast out of everything he ever knew. It's a fortress on the water, and every time you upgrade it, you feel Shay's power growing. After the earthquake, after the betrayal, Shay is a man without a country. He's left for dead in the freezing waters of the North Atlantic, but he doesn't die. He's rescued by a couple in New York, the Finnegans, and this is where the game starts to challenge your perception of the entire franchise's world building. In every other game up to this point, the Templars were the shadow government. They were the faceless oppressors. But here, we meet Colonel George Monro. Monro is surprisingly decent. He's a man of order, yes, but he's also a man who genuinely cares about the people of New York. In 2026, we've seen plenty of sympathetic villains, but Monro was one of the first to feel truly human. He sees the city falling into the hands of gangs that are secretly funded and trained by the assassins to spread chaos. This is the red pill moment for Shay. He sees the assassins using their skills to hoard resources, to intimidate civilians, and to manufacture poisonous gases. Shay doesn't join the Templars because he wants power. He joins them because he sees them as the only ones stopping the assassins from accidentally or intentionally burning the world down. When Monro eventually gives Shay his Templar ring, it doesn't feel like a fall to the dark side. It feels like a promotion. It feels like Shay has finally found adults who are willing to take responsibility for the power they wield. And for our 5 original subscribers watching this, pay attention to that shift. It's the moment the game stops being about revenge and starts being about protection. We can't talk about Rogue without talking about the setting, the 7 Years' War. History buffs often call this World War Zero. It was a global conflict that reshaped empires, and Rogue drops you right into the heart of it. In 2026, we're used to historical settings being used as playgrounds, but in Rogue, the war feels visceral. You aren't just a spectator, you are a participant. You are working with the British to push back the French, not because the British are good, but because the assassins have aligned themselves with the French. The game uses real historical figures, like a young Christopher Gist or even a cameo from Benjamin Franklin, to ground Shay's journey. It makes the conflict feel grounded in reality. You aren't just fighting for an abstract concept like freedom or order. You are fighting for the survival of the colonies. The naval battles during this era were massive, and Rogue captures that scale perfectly. When the British fleet and the French fleet clash in the North Atlantic, and the Morrigan is weaving through the line of fire, it's pure adrenaline. It reminds us that Shay isn't just an individual. He's a piece on a global chessboard. Now we get to the heart of the tragedy. To protect the world from another Lisbon, Shay has to systematically dismantle his former family. First, there's Kesegowaase. He was the one who taught Shay how to hunt, how to survive in the wild. Now, Shay has to use those same skills to take him down during the Siege of Albany. It's a brutal, fast-paced mission that shows how much of a threat an assassin can be when they aren't the player character. Then there's Hope Jensen. Hope was the strategist, the clever one. She's developed a chemical weapon to be used against New York. To stop her, Shay has to navigate a city filled with toxic gas, his own health literally ticking away as he stalks her through the streets. When he finally kills her, she doesn't beg for mercy. She mocks him. She tells him he's just a pawn. This is where the weight starts to pile up. Shay isn't killing nameless mofos. He's killing his teachers. In 2026, we call this emotional damage. But for Shay in 1757, it's a soul-crushing necessity. He has to stay cold. He has to stay focused, because if he fails, thousands more die. If you played Black Flag or Freedom Cry, this is the kill that breaks you. Adéwalé. Adéwalé is a legend. He is a man who escaped slavery to become one of the most respected assassins in history. And here he is, an old man, standing on the deck of his ship, looking at Shay as if he's a disease. The dialogue during this fight is some of the best in the series. Adé says, "You've become a monster, Shay." And Shay responds with, "I'm doing what I must." When Shay finally delivers the finishing blow, the music drops out. The world feels empty. Shay honors him. He shows him respect, but he doesn't regret it. This is the ultimate test of Shay's conviction. If you can kill a hero like Adéwalé for your cause, you are either the ultimate villain or the ultimate survivor. Sitting here 12 years later, this mission still sparks debates. Was Adéwalé right, or was he blinded by a creed that had lost its way? Let me know in the comments. I'm especially interested to hear from our 5 original subs on this one. One of the greatest joys of Rogue, especially for the lore nerds, is the return of the GOAT himself, Haytham Kenway. Haytham is, without a doubt, the best Grandmaster the Templars ever had. He's witty, he's ruthless, and he's incredibly charismatic. In Assassin's Creed 3, we saw him as a cold, distant antagonist through the eyes of his son Connor. In Rogue, we see him as a leader. The dynamic between Shay and Haytham is electric. Haytham respects Shay's independence, and Shay respects Haytham's vision of order. They are the ultimate power duo. Together, they represent the absolute peak of the Templar Order in the Americas. Seeing them plan their moves together gives us a perspective we never had before. It makes the Templars feel like a legitimate organization with a plan, rather than just a group of guys in suits plotting in a boardroom. It fills in the gaps of AC3 perfectly, showing us exactly how the Colonial Brotherhood was reduced to just one man in a shack. The game concludes in the freezing, jagged wastes of the Arctic. Shay, Haytham, and the Templars have tracked Achilles and Liam to the final temple. The confrontation inside the precursor site is a mirror of Lisbon. Achilles finally sees the truth. He realizes that Shay was right all along. The artifacts are not weapons, they are the pillars of the world. If they take them, the world shakes. But it's too late. Liam and Shay have their final showdown as the temple collapses around them. This isn't a fight about good versus evil. It's a fight between two brothers who both believe they are saving the world. When Liam falls, and Shay holds his dying friend, the weight of his journey finally hits. He has saved the world, but he has lost his soul in the process. And then, the choice. Haytham wants to kill Achilles. He wants to end the assassins forever, but Shay stops him. He argues that Achilles is no longer a threat. He's a broken man who has learned his lesson. He convinces Haytham to spare him, an act of mercy that directly leads to the training of Connor Kenway decades later. It's a perfect loop of storytelling. It shows that even as a Templar, Shay still has a heart. But the game doesn't end in the Arctic. We jump forward decades, to Paris. 1789. Shay is an older man now. He's wiser, he's more dangerous, and he's still a Templar. He's in Versailles to retrieve a box, the same box that started his whole journey. In a masterclass of fan service, Shay walks through the palace, passes a young boy named Arno Dorian playing on a bench, and finds Arno's father. The assassination of Charles Dorian is the true end of Shay's story. It is the moment that triggers the events of Assassin's Creed Unity. It makes the entire franchise feel like one giant interconnected web. It proves that Shay's actions didn't just affect America, they changed the course of world history. It's a gut punch of an ending that reminds us everything is connected. So, here we are. 12 years later, 2026. Does Assassin's Creed Rogue hold up? In an era of gaming where everything is a live service, where games are 200 hours long and filled with bloat, Rogue is a breath of fresh air. It's a tight 15-hour experience that knows exactly what it wants to be. It has a point of view. It has a soul. It's underrated because it was born in the shadow of a disaster. But looking back, it's the most narratively daring game Ubisoft ever made. It humanized the villains, it questioned the heroes, and it gave us a protagonist who wasn't afraid to walk alone. If you've enjoyed this journey, if you want to see more deep dives into the games that time forgot, hit that like button. We are currently at 5 subscribers. My goal is to hit 10 by the time the next video drops. Be one of the originals. Be one of the few who can say they were here when this channel started. Drop a comment below. What's your favorite memory of Rogue? I'll be replying to every single one of you for the next 48 hours. I'm Boogpoint, and as Shay says, I make my own luck. Stay sharp, stay hidden. I'll see you in the next one.